It's that time of the week again. The Premier League! Yes guys, the Premier League is back again, and in today's video, I'm going to be giving you guys my match day 2 predictions. In the first week guys, I did okay. To be honest, I could have done a lot better. But in the first week of Premier League fixtures, there was a lot of unexpected results, when I feel like this week, we're definitely going to get a lot more correct. Remember to subscribe to the channel. We're almost at 11,000 subscribers, and I can't do it without you guys. But without further ado, let's get right into these predictions. Starting off with the first match, we have Crystal Palace against Manchester City. Both of these teams got two very different results in the first match week. Obviously, we saw Crystal Palace lose at the Hill Dickinson Stadium against Everton, when on the other hand, Manchester City beat Bournemouth 2-1, but to be honest, they were losing for majority of that game until the last 10 minutes where they scored 2 late goals. Now, if we take a look at Manchester City, I feel like the lineup that Enzo Maresca decided to use in the last game against Bournemouth was a very interesting lineup, which I personally didn't expect. We saw the likes of Nico Riley in the midfield, we saw Guehi in the midfield. I don't know, it was very weird to me. But in this game at Selhurst Park, I do feel like Man City will use a more natural lineup that they're more used to compared to that crazy lineup that they used in the last match day. Now, if we look at Crystal Palace, were they bad against Everton? I wouldn't say they were bad. Defensively, they weren't the best. Now, obviously, Crystal Palace, they've done a lot of moving around. A lot of players have moved around. Obviously, their manager moved around. And like I said, under Pierre Sage, I'm not 100% sure if he's going to be the manager that they need to replace Oliver Glasner. But with that being said, guys, even though Crystal Palace have the home advantage, I think Man City will most likely win this game. I think it will be a close game. I think Crystal Palace at Selhurst Park is definitely not a team to underestimate. And realistically, if they perform very well, they could win this game. But I am still going to go with Manchester City. I think Enzo Maresca will use a more well-known lineup. I think Haaland will finally maybe get on the score sheet either with a goal or an assist. So I'm going to go with a simple 2-1 victory for Manchester City. Moving on to the Saturday matches, the first fixture we got is Liverpool against Nottingham Forest. I'm going to be honest, guys, in the first match day, I didn't think Nottingham Forest looked that impressive. And a lot of people predicted them to win against Leeds. I was pretty much the only person I was seeing on YouTube to go with the Leeds upset, and Leeds did get the win at the City ground. Now they're playing at Anfield. I feel like Liverpool need to win this game. Obviously, in the last match, Liverpool got a 2-2 draw against Newcastle. Newcastle were leading for majority of the game, but then Liverpool got that very late penalty by Szoboszlai. But to be honest, guys, I do think Liverpool were probably the better team on the night and probably did deserve at least a draw. But I feel like for Liverpool, for a player like Wirtz, for a player like Isak, even a player like Cody Gakpo and Gunoa, they need to show up in this game and they need to get Liverpool on the scoreboard with 3 points. I think at Anfield, this is going to be a very tough atmosphere for Nottingham Forest. I think Liverpool will feel much more comfortable playing at home, and for that reason, I can only see Liverpool getting the win. I think they will finally get multiple goals on the score sheet, so I'm going to go with a 3-1 win to Liverpool. Moving on to the next match, we have Bournemouth against Everton. Obviously, Bournemouth lost against Manchester City, and to be honest, I didn't really think they were that good. But if you look at Everton, I honestly thought they had a decent first game week. I thought their performance was very good against Crystal Palace, but they did have the home advantage when in this game they are headed to Vitality Stadium. This is a tough one because you look at a manager like David Moyes, who's obviously one of the more experienced managers in the Premier League, and he's coming up against Marco Rose, who I've never seen him play in the Premier League. He's obviously a much more inexperienced manager in this setting. So I do think that could possibly play a factor in this match. For me, honestly, I think this game has a draw written all over it. I feel like both teams will score, but I feel like both teams in terms of the attack, you look at a player like Tierno Berry, you look at a player like Evan Nilsson, I'm just not that convinced with both of these two teams' attacks. I think this is going to be a little bit more of a low scoring game. I think both teams will get on the scoreboard, but I am going to predict a 1-1 draw coming out of this match. Moving on to the next match, we have Coventry against Hull City. This is a relegation dogfight between Coventry and Hull City, obviously two of the newly promoted teams. And guys, what's very interesting about this matchup is if you look at the head-to-head from both of these teams in recent matches, if you look at their last 3 matches, all 3 matches have ended in draws, which is very interesting, especially if you look at Coventry being a very dominant team in the championship last season. They do seem to struggle against Hull City. Honestly, if Hull City were playing at home in this game, after coming off that 2-0 win against United, Coventry coming off a 3-0 loss against Arsenal, I'd probably go with Hull City to get the win. I thought Hull City against Man United, although Man United were very, very poor, I think Hull City were pretty good. If you look at players like Balumi, I think he had a decent game defensively. Obviously, Ajayi and Mendy scoring the goals. I think Hull City had a very good performance against Man United. Honestly, if this was the first match day of the season, I'd probably go with a Coventry win. But after seeing Coventry's result last week compared to Hull City's result, I actually think Hull City might be able to get a result from this game. So I'm going to go with a 0-0 draw. Both teams struggle to score, but I think that's definitely the better result for Hull City. Moving on to the next match, we have Tottenham against Newcastle. Yo, Tottenham, bro. Oh my gosh, that first match against Brentford was absolutely horrible. Tottenham were shit. They did nothing. They were one of the worst teams in the first game week. Look at these stats. They conceded 26 total shots against Brentford. They conceded almost 4 expected goals. And to be honest, Brentford probably could have won this game 5-0. Now, obviously against Newcastle, this is very different. Tottenham have the home advantage. It's obviously being played at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. And I do think Tottenham will definitely be more up to the occasion. But if we look at that last match, honestly, in the midfield, they were horrible. Tonali, I thought that was a horrible debut performance for Tottenham. And yes, he was very good at Newcastle, but that game he was shit. But I think Tottenham will win this game. I don't know what it is. I don't know if I have some bias within me or something. I don't know why I think Tottenham will win this game, but for some reason, I think they'll get it done. Maybe it's because of the home advantage. I think Tottenham playing away with all the changes that they made, I think maybe they weren't up for the occasion, but in this game, I do think they will be. Now, obviously, this is a similar situation to Newcastle with Isak, with Newcastle and Tonali. Obviously, Tonali used to play at Newcastle, so he may possibly underperform once again, but I still think Tottenham will be able to get this win. I think it will be a very close game, not that comfortable, but I'm going to say a 2-1 win for Tottenham in this game. Moving on to the Sunday fixtures, the first match we got is Chelsea against Brighton. This is a very interesting game because I feel like for some reason, so many of Brighton's outgoings within the last 5 or so years have gone to Chelsea. So I find this almost like a derby, honestly, because I feel like Chelsea buys so many players off of Brighton and the other way around. Now, obviously at the current moment, you see a lot of injuries from Chelsea. The main one for me is Cole Palmer. It says that he is doubtful to play in this game. I do feel like he will play, but if he doesn't play, that may possibly be a little bit of a hindrance to Chelsea. And obviously you look at both of these teams' last games. Now, Chelsea did get a good win against Fulham. I wouldn't say it was the most comfortable game, and a player like Sanchez in net made a horrible mistake, but we have to take a look at Brighton's last game against Aston Villa because that was a fantastic performance. Now, like I mentioned, Villa may be tired from the extensive season they had last year, but this was probably the worst performance of the first game week, Aston Villa, and probably the best by Brighton. I thought Brighton were incredible. They were very good in the attack. Players like Rutter, Hinshelwood, who I don't really know much about, but he got a brace and he was incredible. De Kuiper, I've always been a big fan of him. I remember watching him when he was at Club Brugge, and I think he's a very good player as well. So Brighton are always one of these teams where they have loads of random youngsters that always seem to perform. I'm going to be honest, guys, if Brighton had the home advantage, I'd probably predict a draw, but with it being played at Stamford Bridge, I do feel like that is a very good advantage for Chelsea. So I do think Chelsea will get another very good win. I think they're going to beat Brighton 2-0. Moving on to the next match, we have Leeds against Brentford. Now, both of these teams got very good results in the first match day. Obviously, we saw Leeds beat Nottingham Forest 1-0, and actually more recently, they faced Nottingham Forest again in the cup and they beat them 2-0. When if you look at Brentford, they beat Tottenham 3-0 at home. So both of these teams got very good results, but for some reason, Leeds at Ellen Road, I think they're going to beat Brentford. I find it very interesting with Leeds because I don't feel like they're that crazy of a team, but the amount of support they have is absolutely massive. And with that support alone, I do think they will be able to beat Brentford. I feel like this could be a high scoring game. Obviously, we saw Brentford score 3 goals in the last game against Tottenham, and Leeds, they've been getting a few goals against Nottingham Forest in the last 2 matches, so I do think this would be a high scoring affair, but I'm going to go with a 3-2 win to Leeds. Moving on to the next match, we have Sunderland against Fulham. I'm gonna be honest, guys. Sunderland in the first match did not look convincing against Ipswich. I predicted Sunderland to get the win. Some other people predicted Ipswich, but I didn't think Sunderland were that good, especially in front of goal. I thought they were very, very poor. They had a few shots, but they couldn't really create that much. Now, I've already mentioned Sunderland's midfield of a player like Sadiki and Granit Xhaka, who I'm a big fan of, and I think it will be a very interesting matchup against a team like Fulham, who I think also have a very good midfield with the likes of Iwobi and Sander Berg. I think both of these players are fantastic, so it'll be very interesting to see which midfield battle comes on top between Sunderland and Fulham, but I do think the team that performs better in the midfield, that's able to retain possession, will be able to win this game. I know Sunderland disappointed me last weekend, but this weekend I am going to trust them to get the win. I think it'll be a very close game, but I think they can get the job done against Fulham. I'm going to go with a 1-0 Sunderland win. Moving on to the next match, we have Manchester United against Ipswich. Manchester United, you have your second newly promoted team in a row. You fumbled against Hull. Now you cannot fumble against Ipswich Town. Guys, I'm gonna be honest. If Manchester United do not win this game, I think Michael Carrick might get the sack. Bro, they need to win this game. If they lose to 2 relegation teams in a row, that would be insane. That's unheard of. And for Man United, a team who started off last season so poorly, but gradually built their way up. And then with Carrick, they definitely flew to the top to 3rd place, finishing in the Champions League spots. For them to start off the season with 2 losses to newly promoted teams, it would be absolutely horrible. This is a must win for United. This is a game that they need to win, and I do think they will get the job done. I feel like this would be a much more comfortable game for Man United, especially with the support of the home fans. I'm going to go with a 2-0 win to United. And finally, the last fixture on Monday is Aston Villa against Arsenal. This is going to be a very, very interesting game, guys, because if you look at the first match day, honestly, in my opinion, Aston Villa were probably the worst performing team, when Arsenal were probably the best performing team. So I think both of these teams had completely contrasting first game weeks. I thought Arsenal were very good, but Aston Villa were shit. But Aston Villa at Villa Park, I do think they will be able to perform much better. But with that being said, their new signing, João Gomes, will be suspended for this game. Obviously, in the last game against Brighton, he did get the second yellow and he was sent off. So now he will be missing this game. And Aston Villa are also suffering with a couple injuries like Johan Manzambi, who I think should be available soon, but most likely not for this game. And same with the likes of Majo as well. And with that being said, I think Aston Villa, with a player like Johan Manzambi, will be much, much better. Because if you look at them in that game against Brighton and you take a look at their midfield, honestly, I was not convinced at all. But if you place Manzambi, for example, where Barkley was, for me, that instantly elevates his team to a whole new level. If Arsenal do suffer in this game, that may definitely cause a little bit of problems for their title challenge. But with that being said, I do think they will be able to win this game. Aston Villa coming off the poor game, even though they have the advantage at Villa Park, I still don't think they're going to be able to get a result. I think it'll be a very close game, but I think Arsenal will just edge it out. 2-1 win for Arsenal. And that is the end of this video. Those were my Premier League predictions for the second match week in the 2026-27 season. As always, if you guys agree with my predictions, remember to leave a comment down below. But if you disagree, leave your predictions down below and I'll be sure to reply to every single comment. But as always, guys, if you enjoyed this video, remember to leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and stay tuned for more videos.